Hello everyone, it is I, Ryan, also known as thelovebat, and I'm coming here to go ahead and bring you another Let's Play of mine. And so again, just taking a quick break and kind of changing things up a little bit from previous games I've been playing. And I want to go ahead and bring everyone a classic here today, known as Diablo. Now, I did make brief mention of Diablo in my Curious Expedition little Let's Play on the side that I did, and kind of mentioned Diablo as one of the games that originally was really a big sort of spawning point for lots of, how should I put it, the roguelike type genre or randomly generated content in a game, to where no playthrough may be exactly the same. There might be at least minor differences about them, and maybe you might have some other paths. You have different dungeons that look differently, of course, but that's just like part of the random generation. But another part of the random generation is that sometimes you would have access to certain quests, for example, in one playthrough, but not in the other one. So that is one part of the random generation that comes with roguelikes in this particular game. And so we're going to just go with a single player. I already made one character because I needed to go ahead and adjust the in-game sound options. For the recording here at the start, I had to go and adjust the desktop volume for this game recording, so that way the cutscenes here and this main menu music volume here wasn't tremendously high. And so I'm going to have to pause the recording, go ahead and change the desktop volume, and then start up the game here. But I wanted to go ahead and just keep the introduction video up for everybody to look at, and so that way they can at least watch that at the very beginning, and then hopefully, you know, we'll be able to adjust the volume when we get into the game here, because the volume that you have for your character here, you can't adjust volumes at the main menu screen. As you can see, there's no menus option here to adjust the volume from here. You have to go into a character first, then adjust it. But also I want to go ahead and say that obviously the game does look a bit different, and you can also go ahead and see if we select New Hero here, there are other character options available. And that is because I am playing with a mod. I think it's called the Belzebub mod, which is basically like an HD widescreen type mod that also restores some of the cut content for Diablo. And yeah, that's that piano organ music there is a bit loud, and hopefully in the recording it doesn't show up as too loud as I adjusted the desktop volume to change it. It's a lot louder for me to hear than it is for the recording, so hopefully it's not too loud for the viewing audience as I'm explaining things here. But the Belzebub HD mod, basically it gives you like a widescreen format for Diablo. Since it's mainly a single player game, you don't have to worry about multiplayer or, you know, the cheats things coming into play. One moment here. Alright, I am back from my pause. I ended up getting a phone call from a good friend of mine while I was in the middle of recording there, so I needed to just pause the recording for a little while, and so I could talk to them for a little bit and tell them about, you know, talk about deep philosophical type things and talking about Christmas plans and things like that. But so that conversation is done with now, and she might end up finding this video, and so hopefully she'll enjoy this Let's Play if she checks out my channel that we talked about. So hopefully all is well and things go very well for Christmas for everybody, by the way. I'm considering that we're only a few days away. So anyway, we'll go ahead and get into the game here, but I will need to go and pause the recording again, so that way it can adjust the desktop volume that I was talking about with the recording. Because in this main menu area, and the cutscenes for the opening cutscenes, the volume isn't adjusted by any options. So it may show up unusually loud in the recording if I didn't adjust the volume down a little bit for it. But yeah, we'll get into the game, then I'll go ahead and pause the recording, and I'll be right back. And here are the difficulties. and just waiting for that organ band to end there, but it does have extra difficulty settings in this Belzebub HD mod that I'm using, along with those extra additional characters that you can play with the Assassin, Barbarian, and Necromancer. But I'm going to be starting off with a Sorcerer. So I'm going to start off with a Sorcerer character that was native to the original game, and so they are the essentially the spell casting character, whereas the Warrior is the physical melee character, and then the Rogue was the ranged character. And so those were the three original characters in the game, and I'll be playing the Sorcerer because I think using magic for this particular game may be more interesting for a first playthrough to show off the game. So let's go ahead and get to it then. And now it's time for me to go ahead and pause the recording here real quick and then adjust the desktop volume so we can hear it all correctly. So, one moment. Alright, so all's well that ends well. I adjusted the desktop volume, so now things should be at least palatable as far as the in-game sounds here that are happening. So we adjusted things in the options menu here to try and get a decent balance going between, you know, the music and the sound effects, both the sound effects and the voiceovers with this toggle right here. Maybe we can just do global modifier slightly higher. Yeah, adjusting with the sounds, it kind of has a mind of its own trying to get it to work the way that you want. I think we can hear the music a little bit with this option. Okay, so now we are in the game proper, and so this is the game I think was released originally in 1996. It was a Blizzard game, obviously. It was like it was their first game that was like truly a hit. Like obviously Warcraft 2 came out around the same time frame. But I think Diablo 2 is the first major critical success that they had as far as getting good critical reception, good player reception. It had obviously really nice sales. And it had a very well-known soundtrack. Like the music in this game is really incredible. And so it did lots of things really well for the time that many other games just didn't do all that well. Or maybe just didn't do as well as this game did. Because the standards back then were different, obviously, for both graphics and sound. And then just the general story is also quite interesting, even though there isn't too much. But it is a very, very good... how should I say it? It's a very thematic story, and you get lots of good things out of it that you don't really get in other games a lot of times. Because the theme of it is kind of like battles between heaven and hell, and angels and demons, and all these other different kinds of themes that are going in. So it does make things a bit interesting in the fact that it's not really a standard sort of fantasy setting. It's sort of like a dark gothic type fantasy setting. And so this is the town. There are mods out there that do increase, or I think if you're playing in Diablo Hellfire, which is like the technically an official expansion, but not many people actually played it back in the day because it was just not very well known. A lot of people just didn't really know about it because it wasn't a big release like say with Diablo 2 and its expansion. But for the first game in Hellfire, I think that it increases your movement speed in town here. But the Belzebub mod that I'm using for this widescreen resolution here that you can see with 720p, which I'm upscaling to 180p for the actual encoding here. But basically, the Belzebub mod doesn't increase the movement speed, but it has lots of other quality of life features, like you can see different tabs down here now. And then you have this big wide area of the screen that you can see now, so it's not so zoomed in. Obviously you still have the traditional map here and it's all filled out while you're in town. And it would be nice if the map was in a mini-map area over to the corner of the screen instead, but it might have been impossible to try and encode the game or the mod that way to get the mini-map to show up in a different area. Diablo 2, obviously, if you have a mini-map, it shows up in the sort of upper left part of the screen, I think. I think there might be a toggle to switch the sides of the screen that it appears in, but it's not ideal for a mini-map or for a map system, but it's good enough at least. And as you can see, there's different town members that are walking around here and doing stuff. Another thing that is added in here from the mod is Geed, who is a character and trader that appears in Diablo 2 in that game. It's not really a spoiler or anything like that. He's not a character that's integral to the story, but it is a nod to Diablo 2 in that Geed exists in that game, and so he's in this game as well because he's just there for you to be able to trade items with, and so it doesn't really break anything as far as plot goes or lore or anything like that. Then you have Cain the Elder here, who is very well traveled, and then you have this guy, the tavern owner, who is walking around over there away from his tavern. So you've got all this stuff going on here, and then you have Ogden here.
Greetings, good master. Welcome to the Tavern of the Rising Sun.
Indeed. Might want to turn the sound volume up maybe a little bit higher to hear the voices better, if it'll cooperate with me. Can we turn that up a little bit? Yeah, that might do okay. How does this sound then?
Greetings, good master. Welcome to the Tavern of the Rising Sun.
Maybe I might want it a little bit louder, I guess. Yeah, it has a habit of not... I don't know if this is because of the mod that I'm using, but it's hard to get the sound options to be exactly the way that I want them to.
Greetings, good master. Welcome to the Tavern of the Rising Sun.
So I can still hear the music okay. I'm sure it's going to be okay for the recording as well. Or for the recording, but let's go ahead and talk to him with the introduction here.
Thank goodness you returned. Much has changed since you lived here, my friend. All was peaceful until the Dark Riders came and destroyed our village. Many were cut down where they stood, and those who took up arms were slain or dragged away to become slaves. Or worse. The church at the edge of town has been desecrated and is being used for dark rituals. The screams that echo in the night are inhuman, but some of our townsfolk may yet survive. Follow the path that lies between my tavern and the blacksmith shop to find the church and save who you can. Perhaps I can tell you more if we speak again. Good luck.
Okay. And so that's kind of just giving you a thematic sort of introduction to, again, the nature and the theme of the game, and it's sort of like dark gothic type fantasy in this game, and it's not your usual high fantasy Tolkien or D&D type fantasy where obviously you have dark elements and fiends and demons and undead, things like that that are in there. But in this one, it's just, again, a very dark gothic type art style and setting that, and it sets the tone for the game, I think, very well.
Adria is wise beyond her years, but I must admit, she frightens me a little. Well, no matter. If you ever have need to trade in items of sorcery, she maintains a strangely well-stocked hut just across the river.
Okay. And so whenever you click gossip, it'll just give you random bits of gossip that they're not required, obviously, to complete the game. It's just, it's nice little flavor text, and having the voice acting as well kind of really exemplifies the amount of effort and detail that the developers put into this game. One other addition that is included in the mod here is that you now have a private stash. And with the stash, it's basically you can keep all of your items there that you don't want to carry around in your inventory. Maybe you want to keep something around for later, or you want to just stash your money here. You can also do that. In the original game, basically what you had to do is that you just had to toss, for example, money or items on the ground here in town. Originally, that's how you had to do it. You had to literally toss things on the ground like this. Obviously, that's not a really good gameplay mechanic, and obviously your items wouldn't disappear from the ground if they were in town. They would remain there forever until you pick them back up, and you can... This was basically your bank, was tossing gold on the ground. But now, the original game, I guess, had technological limitations at the time, or maybe the developer team, the dev team, did not have a chance to implement everything that they wanted to, so that you didn't have a stash system or a way to store your money and items that you didn't want to carry around in your inventory, because each spot of inventory here, at least in the original game, you could carry 5,000 gold pieces in a single slot of your inventory, but that would add up over time, especially later in the game. So as you can tell, that means that you're like basically hauling gold and then dropping it off here in town to make sure it didn't take up inventory space. And so gossip, again, will just be random things that can be good flavor-wise. And Adria is a witch that lives over to the right side of town, over here. That's her hut on the map there. We're here, then across the river, that's Adria's hut that we can go buy magic type things from. So we'll be visiting her quite often to get magic items and goods, and then we can add spells to our spell book here. By default we have Firebolt, and then we also have a short staff of Charged Bolt. So Charged Bolt is basically what you would call a lightning type damage spell, and then Firebolt is like a basic fire damage spell. And so, yeah, you can add different spells to your spellbook. Compared to Diablo 2, this is much different. In Diablo 2, you just had a skill tree that you advanced through, and you didn't have to buy spellbooks or things like that to be able to advance your magic skills. It was just, as you leveled up, you would progress through a skill tree and then add points to certain skills or spells that you'd want to cast. In the first Diablo, however, you would have to learn spells similar to a wizard in Dungeons and Dragons, where you would have to add things to your spell book, and then you would level up spells, spell level 1 for example, as you can see there. It would be spell level 1, and then if we found another, like a book of Firebolt, and then we scribed it to our spell book, then it would up our spell level to spell level 2 and increase the potency of it, so it increased the damage, for example. And so other spells will also get a bit stronger as you level them up through finding spell books and then scribing them and increasing your spell level on them. So Farnham the Drunk, this is he's an entertaining character. He also has some slight relevance to side quests in this game, a major side quest, so he's actually not totally irrelevant to talk to. There's one particular side quest that you can get where Farnham, you can get some interesting dialogue with him, so we might check that out later.
Stand a fellow drinking peace?
And he's also got an amusing voice actor that voiced him here, so that's also pretty cool. And he's a drunk, as you can see, but we'll see what he has to say for gossip.
I want to tell you something, because I know all about this stuff. It's my specialty. This here is the best. The best. That other ale ain't no good since so stupid dogs.
So yeah, his dialogue can be amusing to come back to every now and then. Occasionally he'll have something different to say, and then you can also talk to him about different quests that you have. It might be random nonsense that comes out of his mouth, but it's entertaining random nonsense, so that's something to look forward to. Then you have Pepin the Healer.
What ails you, my friend?
And you can get healing for free from him, and then you can also buy things like healing potions from him as well. So that will certainly be very helpful.
What ails you, my friend?
What ails you, my friend?
Ogden's barmaid is a sweet girl. Her grandmother is quite ill and suffers from delusions. She claims that they are visions, but I have no proof of that one way or the other.
Oh, that's interesting. From what I remember playing of the original game, we don't get to talk to all of the characters that are mentioned in passing dialogue sometimes, but It's still nice that they have lots of good flavor text to say. And then here's the barmaid that he was referring to in that dialogue.
Good day. How may I serve you? Pepin saved my grandmother's life, and I know that I can never repay him for that. His ability to heal any sickness is more powerful than the mightiest sword, and more mysterious than any spell you can name. If you ever are in need of healing, Pepin can help you.
I'll take that advice to heart, and I'm sure that in the near future we're going to suffer some injuries of some kind and need our health restored. So we have 30 hit points and 70 mana, and then it's nice that it tells you the hotkey as well for these different tabs. And so in the original game it just had general for the tab that you can select here. Being that the mod as in these other three, they're not really required to look at these. They don't really add a whole lot. As far as it does give you some extra resistance information, but other than that, there's not a whole lot here that really is going to make a big difference in your strategy or how you approach the game. But yeah, this general tab here will show you much that you need to know. Your to-hit chance if you're a melee character or if you're a rogue with ranged attacks, for example. Then your armor class is how hard that you are to hit. And occasionally you can have resistances and things like that that can cut down on the damage you take from certain types of magical effects or certain kinds of attacks sometimes. And then you also have potential physical resistance. Some items might increase your damage reduction. Like you take 3 less damage from a physical attack, for example, or 1 less damage from magic or something like that. And then your experience needed for the next level up. Obviously early in the game it doesn't take very long to level up, but later on it will take a lot longer. Then you have your primary stats here. Strength is obviously what you want for physical attacks and melee combat, and it's also important for you to be able to use better gear. So if you want to use heavier types of armor, even as a sorcerer, then getting more strength will help you to put on better equipment that will help protect you. And also some equipment also has some really nice benefits to putting it on, like stat increases, better hit points, or more everything. So it helps improve all of this, and so by being able to wear better gear, and sometimes heavier types of armor or helmets, etc., strength can come into play for your gear even if you are a spellcaster like him. Magic, it affects how much mana that you have for the most part, and in order to learn some spell books that you find, or like certain kinds of like we obviously have our spell book here, but if you find a book of a spell and you want to add it to your spell book here, then sometimes you need a high enough magic as a prerequisite to learn a spell. So if you want to learn higher level spells, then you're going to have more magic invested, so that way you can learn the spells as well as having more mana to cast things consistently. Then you have dexterity, which is your usually it affects your to-hit chance with ranged weapons like bows and stuff like that, but it also affects your armor class a little bit as well. But mainly it's your to-hit chance of weapons like bows and ranged weapons. So for a rogue, you're going to have lots of dexterity and maybe a bit of strength to be able to use heavier bows. And then vitality, that is basically your hit points and nothing else, I think. It could affect something in defense with hit recovery or things like this that I don't really pay too much attention to. But usually vitality just means how much health do you have and how hard it is for you to kill. But obviously vitality is somewhat important for most any character, because obviously to play the game you need to stay alive. No BG's reference there. Staying alive. So yeah, that's the basics of those. The skills aren't too important here. You have staff recharge. This was in the original game. But basically you can recharge staffs that have charges of spells on them. So that way you don't have to go all the way back to town to recharge them and spend money and everything on them. In the original game, I don't know if they had a cooldown on the ability or not, but in this mod, the Belzebub mod, it does. I don't know if these are for other skills that other characters get, or if you can get more than one skill. But for the purposes of this game, I'm not sure if the skills are going to be very important. They are more flavor and convenience than they are helping you become more powerful, from what I understand. In the original game, it was basically, again, just ribbon type abilities that aren't too important. For us in the early game, it'll obviously help to recharge our staff that can cast spells, since we don't have a whole lot of money to buy spellbooks and other gear and things like that. And then for the skills that the warrior gets, they get a repair item skill, and then the rogue gets a disarm trap skill. Again, they're not necessarily too useful, to be honest. You don't usually want to use repair item on a good piece of gear, because then it reduces the maximum durability when you do that. At least in the original game it did. It might be different in the mod, but in the original game, when you used the repair item with a warrior on a piece of gear, it reduced the maximum durability as a result, or as a downside.
Psst, over here.
So here's Wirt, the peg-legged boy, and he's basically a greedy bastard. He's basically trying to make a living by being a money-grubbing type merchant, I guess, and he has a peg leg right there, as you can see. He lost his leg to something, so obviously he got himself into some trouble, and even just looking at the item that he has costs money. Later on, that's not a big deal, but for now it is. But he can occasionally have some very good gear. The question is, you just want to wait until later in the game for it, so that way the 50 gold makes no difference if you take a quick look to see if you find something good.
Don't trust everything the drunk says. Too many ales have fogged his vision and his good sense.
Well, I don't doubt that, but on the other hand, Farnham is entertaining to listen to, so for that reason I'll keep talking to him now and then. But obviously there's a lot of nonsense that comes out of his mouth, but it's entertaining nonsense, so I'm okay with it. Let's see, Guy doesn't have too much to say because he was not in the original game, so he doesn't have all the same flavor bits of dialogue that these other characters do.
Well, what can I do for you?
And obviously you can trade and stuff. One other thing I want to point out is that in the original game, items would tend to show up as plain text in the shops when you want to go ahead and buy things. So it would show up in just plain text in a box over here, and so you wouldn't get the icons and the little inventory screen here like you do now. This harkens to Diablo 2 a bit more, where it has this style of bartering system, whereas in the original Diablo 1 game, it just had plain text when you're buying things in shops and browsing around and things like that. So this is a nice quality of life addition to the game that the Belzebub HD Mod brought in, because now you can actually see the items that you're buying before you buy them, and again, it's just nice flavor to, and also just the ease of use of seeing what you're getting here. And obviously there's also a higher selection of items that you get. In the original game, when you're looking at shops, usually it's a very limited selection that you have access to, whereas in this you have a number of decent options to pick from. So let's talk to him now and see what he says.
What can I do for you? I was with Farnham that night that Lazarus led us into the labyrinth. I never saw the Archbishop again, and I may not have survived if Farnham was not at my side. I fear that the attack left his soul as crippled as, well, another did my leg. I cannot fight this battle for him now. But I would if I could.
But yeah, so you can see there that Farnham wasn't always a drunk. He wasn't always like this, and so you can kind of see there that there are some legitimate reasons things happened to Farnham and got him heavy into the ale, as it were. And so bad things happened and kind of left a big mark on him, kind of like you might hearken it to something like post-traumatic stress disorder or something like that from people who see combat, and it just kind of leaves the mind and the soul kind of battered and bruised a bit. And so some people, they try and deal with it in their own different ways, and some people try and drown it out with things like alcohol to take the pain away. So that's kind of what's going on with Farnham. So it is entertaining and amusing to listen to his dialogue, but there is a sad undertone to it all, that there are just terrible things that happen to him that cause him to be that way.
Hello, my friend. Stay a while and listen.
Then you have Kane here. You can identify items for you later if you find magical items, and you have to get them identified to know what they do exactly, and also to sell them for their selling price. So if you want to sell magical items, you can't sell them without identifying them, because otherwise they're pretty much worthless before identifying them. So
The witch, Adria, is an anomaly here in Tristram. She arrived shortly after the cathedral was desecrated, while most everyone else was fleeing. She had a small hut constructed at the edge of town, seemingly overnight, and has access to many strange and arcane artifacts and tomes of knowledge that even I have never seen before.
alright, and so as you can see here, that Kane is sort of like a scholar type. He knows quite a few things, especially in terms of sort of in-game universe and lore knowledge. So if you have a quest and you want to know what the lore might be about it, then Kane will usually be able to provide some info for you there. So now we're going to go over here to visit Adria, the witch that people have been talking about a little bit. And there she is with her hut.
I sense a soul in search of answers.
Alright, and so you can obviously trade for magic items here. She also has, along with magic staves for you, she also has these books of spells. And so obviously they're very expensive to buy. We have nowhere near enough gold for them, but later on we can add to our repertoire of spells and magic. And she also has mana potions here as well. Mana potions and scrolls of, I think, Town Portal are in here somewhere. I guess not. Usually they would have scrolls of Town Portal and identifying here, but I guess she doesn't have any of those right now. But maybe later we might be able to get one of those. You can also buy a book of Town Portal and add that to your spell book, so that way you don't need scrolls for it. Kind of similar to having a Tome of Town Portal in Diablo 2 when that comes around. And then you have cows. Good old Betsy and Daisy. These cows here, obviously they're just for show and just for flavor and stuff being out here. But it also contributed to a running joke amongst the Diablo. Maybe it was the fan base, or maybe it was just with the developers or something like that. But there was a running joke about cows with the original Diablo, and there being a secret cow level or something like that. And in the first game, obviously there wasn't, and the developers denied it. But to sort of complete the running gag or joke amongst fans or developers or whatever of the game, they ended up making a secret cow level for Diablo 2. So later on, when you get into Diablo 2, you can end up playing a cow level at some point if you beat the game and then go back and replay it. And there's some items that you can get that can allow you to make a portal to a secret town, a secret cow level. So when we get to Diablo 2, we can maybe try that out and show it on screen for everyone to enjoy. And so Tremaine the Priest was not in the original game. I think that this might be a character that was part of the Belzebub HD mod with restored content. The HD mod does aim to restore some content that was cut from the game, similar to something like the Fallout 2 Restoration Project, where it restores lots of quests and things that were cut from the game or couldn't be completed in time for the game's release. but through the use of mods we can unlock some of the hidden files in the game or complete things that were left unfinished, and then present it to the general gaming world at large, and so the mods can go ahead and bring a game up to more completeness.
All I can do now is pray for us all. All I can do now is pray for us all.
So I'm not exactly sure how much dialogue that he has, but I'm sure that if we get a quest later on, we can talk to him about that. Maybe there's some dialogue there. I don't know how much dialogue is with him. Again, he's a new character that was not in the original release of the game. I'm not sure if he is part of the cut content or not, but if he is, I'm sure he'll have some voice lines in there. Then one last thing that's added in here in the Belzebub HD mod is the waypoints. So in the original Diablo game, you did not have waypoints, at least not in this way. You would occasionally unlock things that would allow you to go down into the dungeon in a different way. For example, if you get further into the game, this little thing right here will unlock and the bars will be gone, and you can go in here as sort of like a shortcut, but only when you get to a certain level in these in this dungeon up here. And it looks like we have a poor soul that's waiting up here with an exclamation point. In the original game, I think the exclamation points were a little bit different. They looked like a bit thinner and totally gold looking, I think. But in the mod, it changes them to be sort of like a golden circle type icon with the exclamation point.
Please, listen to me. The Archbishop Lazarus. He led us down here to find the lost prince. Bastard led us into a trap. Now everyone is dead, killed by a demon he called the Butcher. Avenge us! Find this Butcher and slay him, so that our souls may finally rest.
Your death will be avenged.
We will avenge the slain townsman's life and avenge the sacrifice of the people that went into this labyrinth with Farnham and also the blacksmith back in town. In fact, let's go ahead and talk to Farnham. There's actually some interesting dialogue here that we can get, so I'm going to just show this to you before we go into the labyrinth here. So let's talk to Ogden
Greetings,
here.
good master. Welcome to the Tavern of the Rising Sun. Yes, Farnham has mumbled something about a hulking brute who wielded a fierce weapon. I believe he called him a butcher.
Well, what can I do for you? I saw what Farnham calls the Butcher, as it swathed a path through the bodies of my friends. He swung a cleaver as large as an axe, hewing limbs and cutting down brave men where they stood. I was separated from the fray by a host of small screeching demons, and somehow found the stairway leading out. I never saw that hideous beast again, but his blood-stained visage haunts me to this day.
So some people have obviously become acquainted with this butcher.
Hello, my friend. Stay a while and listen. It seems that the Archbishop Lazarus goaded many of the townsmen into venturing into the labyrinth to find the king's missing son. He played upon their fears and whipped them into a frenzied mob. None of them were prepared for what lay within the cold earth. Lazarus abandoned them down there, left in the clutches of unspeakable horrors to die.
And then we'll see what Pepin has
What
to say
ails you,
about
my
it.
friend? By the light, I know of this vile demon. There were many that bore the scars of his wrath upon their bodies when the few survivors of the charge led by Lazarus crawled from the cathedral. I don't know what he used to slice open his victims, but it could not have been of this world. It left wounds festering with disease, and even I found them almost impossible to treat. Beware if you plan to battle this fiend.
So obviously the Butcher is very dangerous, and it's a miracle that Farnham and our dear friend Griswold the blacksmith have been able to make it out alive against him.
And a fellow drinking geese?
Brace yourselves.
Big cleaver, killing all my friends. Couldn't stop him, had to run away. Couldn't save them. Trapped in a room with so many bodies, so many friends. No!
So as you can see, this Archbishop Lazarus leading a frenzied mob down into their deaths kind of had a very big effect on our man Farnham here, which is kind of what led him to becoming a drunk. So again, while his dialogue is definitely amusing, there's a bit of a dark undertone there as to what led him that way. And he's just a very, very sad individual trying to escape it all through alcohol. So anyway, we've had enough of the lore dump here. I think that we'll be getting on to the game thing, I think, here.
All
do you
I
have
can
anything
do
to say
now
about?
is pray for us all.
I guess you don't have anything to say about the Butcher. I don't know if he's going to have any dialogue. If he doesn't have any dialogue about the Butcher, then I doubt that he has much to say, so now it's time to get into the labyrinth and avenge the death. Let's see if we can adjust our hotkeys before we go in here. So you F1 and you F2.
The sanctity of this place has been fouled.
Oh, I didn't know that you could zoom in and out with the mouse wheel here. I was kind of hoping that the mouse wheel might be used for switching between the skills here, actually. I actually think I'd prefer that, because then I could easily switch with the mouse wheel instead of having to use the keyboard to switch. Okay, so we have some enemies coming after us here. We don't have much in the way of health or armor, so we have to be kind of careful here. I'm going to try and do it without dying if possible. Kind of similar to a hardcore Diablo 2 playthrough, where it's a permadeath scenario kind of similar to a roguelike, where usually in a roguelike if you die you can't save and then try again if you die. Got a mana potion here. Another mechanical difference between the original game and the Belzebub mod is that you can use you can equip belts to go and increase the number of equipments or potion slots that you get here. In the original Diablo 1, you would just get 8 potion slots, and it was just 8 throughout the entire game, no matter what gear that you had on. But with the Belzebub mod, the better kinds of belts that you equip, then the more potion slots that you have available to store potions in. And potions are basically your main way of restoring mana or health in a pinch. There's also a healing spell that can restore your health as well, but since that uses up mana to do, usually potions are the preferred method for healing. See, that's how much damage that we took just from a few hits from a skeleton. That's how hard the game is early on. Oh, Book of Heal Other. So I guess if you're playing something like multiplayer, or if you have summoned creatures with magic, then Heal Other would be something you use to heal other creatures, basically. I'm not sure if I can deal damage to undead, but I guess maybe at some point we might be able to test that out. Now, because we don't have any, excuse me, sorry, I keep forgetting that tab brings up the mini-map. I'm used to that highlighting objects and things like that. So yeah, this is the map here. And then we don't have any healing potions right now. We don't have health regeneration either, I don't think. So we're going to have to be very careful here. Because we are squishy sorcerer, which is basically like the equivalent of a squishy wizard or something like that. Oh, and I didn't even see him sneaking up on me. That zombie was moving so slow and blending in with the background so much I did not even see him coming. Right, and so we automatically equip the skull cap for some armor, and I guess we'll read this and learn the spell. I don't think that we're going to be needing it, but and I guess I might as well, I don't know how saving the game exactly works here. In the original game, you could save anywhere that you wanted, and then you could return to the game when you were going to join up in the game again. But in the original game, it was a save anywhere type thing, and then you just booked it back into the game from where you left off. This game might be doing it more Diablo 2 style, or you are doing a save and quit type of thing. Alright, finally, we have a healing potion. And one big problem with things like chests and barrels or things like that you try and get loot from is that sometimes they will be trapped. And so as a part of that, since we're low on health here, a trap could end up killing us here, so hopefully that does not happen here. I could also go back to town and get healed by Pepin as well, since he heals you for free. Oh, we got some skeletons coming, so I might want to deal with them. How many charges do we have left? 20? Oh, I do not want to get hit by anyone that could possibly kill me, so if they close in, I really have to kill them fast. Okay. Wait until they get in, and then we unleash the mob of charged bolts on them. I'm not sure what the hotkey is for highlighting items on the ground. I'll have to check that out. Be nice if the quick map hotkey was not the tab key, because the tab key, I think in Diablo 2, was usually what highlighted items that were on the ground or gold and things like that. I don't think that it gives you an option to look at your key bindings here. No, it doesn't. Is it anywhere here? Auto map. Game settings. Alright, so there's some additional settings here, I guess. I think I'm going to turn combat info text off. I don't think I need that popping up on the screen. And then town walk increase. I don't mind moving a bit faster here. That's the town walk speed that I was talking about at the start of the episode. You can increase your walking speed in town, so that way it doesn't take so long to get around places. I think we'll go with 60% and see how that works out, to be able to get over to Adria a bit faster on the edge of town, since we're going to be making trips there for sure to get magic items. I might just want to go back up to Pepin here and heal up. So yeah, this is certainly much faster than it was before with the walking speed in town.
I cannot get there from here.
Don't know what you're saying that for. I wasn't trying to cast any spells, so it seems that Pepin has something to say to us.
I'm glad I caught up to you in time. Our wells have become brackish and stagnant, and some of the townspeople have become ill drinking from them. Our reserves of fresh water are quickly running dry. I believe that there is a passage that leads to the springs that serve our town. Please find what has caused this calamity, or we all will surely perish.
Okay. So this is one of the quests that you can get in the game. The butcher that we encountered earlier is one such quest, and this is a different one. In the original game, I think that it was randomized which quests that you could generally end up with, so you might or might not end up with this quest to take care of the water. And then the butcher, usually it would come up, but not always. I think it was more like 75% of the time you get the butcher quest, and then the other 25% you might not, and you might get different ones to replace it. But with the mod implemented, however, it might just include all of them into a single playthrough, so you don't have to replay the game just to get all the quests that would normally happen here. And one other little thing is that if you look at the fountain that Cain is next to, you can see that the watercolor is different. So the Pepin, referring to the poisoned water, it's a flavorful addition here where this fountain is like yellowish colored type water, like dirty water, compared to the blue water that was showing up earlier, I believe. I mean, it's kind of weird how that happened so quickly, obviously, and why it wasn't looking poisoned when we first started the game, but it just does that as a way to, you know, adding a bit of flavor to it. So it's like, oh, the poisoned water. Oh, the water looks poisoned over here, so it must be true. And so it's...
What ails you, my friend?
So we'll get some healing from him. We have a healing potion, so I don't think we'll need another one here. I wonder what Farnham has to say about this poisoned water, if it has anything to do with his ale.
Drinking peace? You drink water?
Ah, yes. Do you drink water indeed, Farnham? Who drinks water? Who needs that anyway?
Hello, my
What do you have to say
friend.
about it?
Stay a while and listen. I don't know what I can really tell you about this that will be of any help. The water that fills our wells comes from an underground spring. I have heard of a tunnel that leads to a great lake. Perhaps they are one and the same. Unfortunately, I do not know what would cause our water supply to be tainted.
So obviously Cain doesn't know absolutely everything. There are limits to his knowledge, but you can still offer, you know, some insights to it for most anything, so...
Well, what can I do for you? Pepin has told you the truth. We will need fresh water badly, and soon. I've tried to clear one of the smaller wells, but it reeks of stagnant filth. It must be getting clogged at the source.
Stagnant filth. Yeah, and I love the sort of accent that Griswold has with his voice lines. And just the way he expresses himself.
Good day. How may I serve you? When Farnham said something about a butcher killing people, I immediately discounted it. But since you brought it up, maybe it is true. When Farnham... My grandmother is very weak, and Garda says that we cannot drink the water from the wells. Please, can you do something to help us?
I will do what I can, Gillian. And then you, what do you have to say
Over
about it?
here. For once, I'm with you. My business runs dry, so to speak, if I have no market to sell to. You better find out what is going on, and soon.
Business is going to be bad if people die from drinking poisoned water, so please fix it. That's basically what he's trying to say. It's too bad he can't look at it from a more human point of view, but I guess Wirt must have had a really bad childhood to think the way he does, but that's just the way that some people turn out, unfortunately.
I know more than you think about that grisly fiend. His little friends got a hold of me and managed to get my leg before Griswold pulled me out of that hole. I'll put it bluntly. Kill him before he kills you and adds your corpse to his collection.
Uh-huh. Interesting. So it looks like we have a butcher that, we have a score to settle with the butcher because everyone else seems to have
good
some
master.
experience
Welcome
with
to
him.
the Tavern of the Rising Sun. I have always tried to keep a large supply of foodstuffs and drink in our storage cellar, but with the entire town having no source of fresh water, even our stores will soon run dry. Please, do what you can, or I don't know what we will do.
Again, I will do what I can. And then we didn't talk to Adria before about the butcher either, so we might talk
All
to her
I
now
can
that we
do
have our
now
movement
is
speed
pray
going.
for us all.
Guess they probably don't have much to say about anything, so let's talk to Adria with our increased movement speed to get over here in a jiffy.
I sense a soul in search of answers.
I'm not sure what refreshment is. I guess refreshment might be restoring our mana without needing to use potions, I guess.
The people of Tristram will die if you cannot restore fresh water to their wells. Know this. Demons are at the heart of this matter, but they remain ignorant of what they have spawned.
Yeah, I bet the demons wouldn't really care much about our fresh water, so... And as Farnham says, hey, who drinks water? I guess demons don't really care much for water, so...
The butcher is a sadistic creature that delights in the torture and pain of others. You have seen his handiwork in the drunkard Farnham. His destruction will do much to ensure the safety of this village.
Well, I don't doubt that. I don't doubt that getting rid of the butcher will be good for the safety of the town and just good for everyone in general to get rid of that sadistic fiend. Now let's head back into the dungeon now that we got our health back up and we got another quest on our hands to take care of. Again, I'm not sure exactly if we can learn how to... crafting? I'm not sure when we get crafting, but apparently that's going to be a thing. Crafting was not a thing in the original game, so... I was just trying to think of where the hotkeys might be, so that way I might be able to look at them, so that way I can know how to highlight things on the ground. In the original game, I don't think that it had an option for that, but I think in this mod it does. I just don't remember the hotkey, so I might have to look that up after I'm done recording this episode. It makes it a lot easier to tell what's on the ground when you can highlight things. And as you could hear there, that was a trap that was activated after opening that. So there are traps like arrows that shoot out of the wall, or one, occasionally there's like a firebolt or other spells like that which can churn up on you, or turn up on you basically. Alright, so I have a scroll of healing, a potion of healing, so we should be good to go. Looks like we have enemies. Enemies that need killing. We are in a dungeon after all, so that is to be expected. And you can also open barrel type things by just shooting them with a spell. So we can do this from a safe distance. How many charges? We have 6 left. So charged bolts is obviously making some good work of them. Later on, obviously, we'll need some more impressive magic. Alright. So we just gained a level there. Right, so that's F1. And now we're going to hit them with some firebolt action. Got him. Alright. So as you can see, we ran out of charges on our staff that had charged bolt on it, so we're going to have to restore the charges on that. But first we're going to do our level up here. And so we might want to increase our strength a little bit along with magic, so that way we could use better gear at some point. But for now we're just going to keep going in magic. And then a bit later on we might include some extra strength in that, just so that way we can have better gear to put on. The mod does end up adding quite a bit of extra gear for you to use, so there might be a consideration that the expanded equipment and gear that you can get and loot might be a reason to up my strength. Then I'm going to move way back here away from the zombie because those things just have a way of sneaking up on you. And then where's the skills here? Crafting, skills, okay, yeah. So I want to use this. It shows up here too. Yep, it does. Okay. So we can use the staff recharge and use it on the short staff to get all the charges back on it. So that is quite good. Don't know if we're going to need heal others, so I'm not going to even hotkey that for now. Okay, so I didn't even know that gold was there, but now I have that. Take down the zombie. And then we have another zombie to bring down. And another one. Might have been the same one actually, and I didn't kill it, but maybe my eyes are deceiving me. Nope. We can also attack with our staff if we want, but we are much faster when we cast spells than when we attack with our staff, so let's kind of catch all these guys in our magic here. There we go. It's a nice little bit of crowd control with Charged Bolt, whereas Firebolt is good for sniping enemies from a long distance. Oh, we got lots of enemies coming our way. Let's get the Charged Bolt action going here to make quick work of them. Alright, so we've gotten a good bit of area cleared now. We are starting to get some loot. Obviously it's a bit of a more slower pace with this first Diablo game than in the Diablo 2 and other games that spawned from Diablo 2 and the Diablo games. Most action RPGs tended to be based more on Diablo 2 later on, and games that kind of copied the formula, whereas Diablo 1 was a bit more slower paced in some ways, and a bit more of the true, like a bit of a truly gothic, dark kind of setting, and more based on voiceovers to kind of set the scene, and less of a... I mean, it is definitely a hack and slash RPG, but it's more of an action RPG in my mind. It's not pure hack and slash. There are definitely some elements of using things like voiceovers and narration to be able to set the stage of this game the way that it was designed. Because at the time, graphics and fast-paced action couldn't always be done with the technology that they had. So you had to replace it with things like voiceovers and narrative and lore. Okay, there we go. Plain rags I'm not going to pick up. If they're magical, then they might be worth taking. I could sell them or use them, maybe. So we got lots of undead down here, and then those fallen ones, or whatever they're called, are like little annoying sounding demons. Cowardly type demons, I think. So that's a trap that was in a barrel there. The exploding barrel can end up dealing damage to you, and obviously if you're low on health when trying to open up a barrel that's trapped, they could potentially kill you. So that's one reason to stay away from them when you're going to open them up. Alright, so instead of using something like, say, disarm traps that a rogue might get, which was generally not a very useful skill for the rogue as far as the ribbon skills that the original game had, now you can use different kinds of ranged attacks to open up the barrels from a safe distance that they are trapped. So, okay, so let's get out of here. Whenever those skeletons come up in a barrel or a sarcophagus or something like that, you just kind of have to get out of there, retreat a little bit, and then get into a better situation, and then finish the job once they try and close in on you. And sometimes you can avoid the explosions like we did there. Not really the recommended option to try and avoid the explosion, but I was just trying to show an example there, I guess. Oh, what are you doing? I don't want you to go all the way over there. I want you to do this. No, not there. Oh, I ran out of charges. That's why I'm doing that. I was trying to right-click there, and I didn't realize that I ran out of charges on my staff here with the spell. How close am I to leveling up? Fairly close, so I could recharge my staff here, and then I can switch to maybe a little bit of firebolt action, because every time you level up, your health and your mana are restored to full. Which I could use a little bit of after getting hit by a trap there. So we can kill him with a firebolt. There we go. Alright, so this is a little bit, again, slower paced. So it's definitely not the same sort of action-heavy Diablo 2 where you're running around and getting around areas quickly. And all the combat in this game takes place indoors at a dungeon-type setting, so definitely much different there as well. Got lots of enemies to take care of. And there we go. Gained another level. Get the little nice horn sound there. Bloom. Whenever you gain a level. Alright, so let's see what we get in the bookcase here, then we'll level up. And hey, another book of Firebolt. And our inventory is full, but we're going to put this in here for now, and then once we learn the spell, or use the book basically, then that'll be that. Alright, so we're spell level 1, and fire damage is 10 to 19 right now, costing 3 mana. And there's also a magic requirement to level up a spell level. So 10 to 19 damage, what does it do now? 11 to 20, so added 1 more damage to our damage count there, so it's not much, but that's for just a first level spell. And so obviously as we level up that spell, it'll end up getting more buffs to it. Kind of similar to how if you learn, or if you invest more skill points in Diablo 2 into a skill or to a spell, then it will increase its effectiveness and potency. So now our Firebolt is decently strong here with another level in that. Eventually we can get a telekinesis spell which can open up chests and containers from a distance. Not sure how often I would actually use that in practice, but it's a possibility. full healing potion, sarcophagus, skeleton to kill, and lots of exploding barrels. Is barreling down on us. There we go. Ouch, that kind of hurt. Some of these traps do hurt a good bit, so kind of tough to deal with when you don't have much gear to protect yourself, as far as like armor and things like that. Okay, so another axe to sell off. Looks like we have some enemies through a door over there that they can't open. I also think in the original game, as far as the staff recharging goes, it would end up taking, it would end up reducing the maximum amount of charges that you have on a spell for your staff if you use the staff recharge skill in the original game. In this game, it does not appear to reduce the maximum amount of charged bolt charges when you use your staff recharging skill. So I don't know if that's a change that's permanent, like you can't ever reduce the maximum amount of charges, or if it's like only the first few times that you use it, it doesn't reduce the charge count or the maximum charge count on it. Yeah, let's try saying that 3 times fast. You have a charged bolt staff with an amount of charges on it. Take care of all those enemies over there, I hope. I somehow avoided all of them. There we go. Killing all those enemies there. Throw out a few more of those. Looks like a ring or some kind of jewelry fell down there. And we might need to go back to town and sell off some things and then heal up from Pepin. Oh, look out. There's a skeleton trying to sneak up on us. Hard to see things sometimes. Again, enemies can usually move faster than you can as far as walking speed goes. And there's the ring that we're looking for. There's a magical club down there too. There we go, took him out. I think that there was a zombie over here somewhere that we're trying to kill. Maybe he snuck off somewhere that I can't see. Okay.
I cannot carry any more.
Right, so I can't carry any more things in my inventory now, so let's go ahead and get some of these things in here. Scroll of Resurrect, like I'm not sure if Resurrect's even that useful, because obviously if you die you can't resurrect yourself. So this is more of a thing that's for multiplayer or for summoned creatures maybe that you want to resurrect. So I don't imagine that resurrection type magic is going to be all that relevant for single player, unless you have like a summoned creature that you can resurrect of some kind. But in the original game, summoning wasn't a major theme for spellcasting. There's only one major spell, which is a late game type spell that was a summoning spell, compared to Diablo 2 where you could summon creatures much sooner than that. In fact, you could play classes where you can summon creatures right around the beginning of the game actually. So let's take the map off there for town. And we have a level up to deal with here as well, so we'll take care of the healing.
What ails you, my friend?
And then we'll go ahead and identify some of the stuff.
Hello, my
from
friend.
King.
Stay a while and listen.
Cap of the Fox. Okay. So this is how the original shop system used to look in the original game. It'd be plain text here. So if you're going to a shop and you're wanting to buy things, it would originally would appear in plain text here, and what the item was and what it did and the properties of it and things like that. So that's one major difference from the original game to this game, is that, again, it would usually be plain text and it would appear like this with Cain identifying items, for example. This is how Cain identifying items did, I think, look in the original game. And then this is also how the, again, item things appeared when you're buying things in shops in the original game as well. And that's just kind of what the screens look like for that in the original. Whereas with this, it appears more like that, as you saw earlier. So we have some pretty good magic items here. We got a cap, a skull cap with plus 15 to hit points, which is pretty significant because we only had like 32 hit points as base health before, so that's a big increase. That's basically a less armor but more light radius. Basically means that we don't want it. Light radius is not usually too big of a deal in these kinds of games. I mean, it would be a big deal in tabletop type games where you need light if you don't have like ways to see in the dark, obviously, but we're not playing tabletops, so increased chance to hit. I don't know if that applies to my magic at all, but still nice, I guess, to have it. And then additional dexterity will help with my armor class, so that's worth keeping.
Whoa, what can I do for you?
Again, I'm not sure if the hit chance applies to your spells or not, because that's usually for melee attacks and for things like ranged attacks with bows and things like that. We'll see, though, if it affects my chance to hit with like firebolt or something like that. And as you can see here with the bow, it has a required dexterity, so for bows you usually need dexterity, and then later on maybe a bit of strength, and then melee weapons have their strength requirements and things like that, so... And we don't need that anymore because we have a better skull cap. And then let's get rid of that. Then as far as potions, let's go ahead and maybe get rid of some of these regular mana potions that I don't use too often, maybe. Oh, we have to go to Adria to sell those items then, I guess. Alright, and I don't think we want anything else from him. We already have some basic armor now. I guess maybe I might want to just sell the ring, because I don't think I'm going to be using it. 12% chance to hit. I don't know if that really affects magic attacks. I don't know, let's see. Does it change anything here? It doesn't change our magic's chance to hit. So I think I'm going to sell the ring because it doesn't actually affect me in any major way. 109 chance to hit. Okay, so I don't know if it really affects my chance to hit or not. Alright, so it slightly does. Okay. It slightly enhances the chance to hit. And then we'll kind of slowly increase our strength here to wear some better gear. Later on, being able to wear good armor is going to be very helpful to keep you alive. I guess the way that I would like to think of it is a sort of battle magic wizard, a battle mage, war mage.
I sense a soul in search of answers.
And then we want to trade. I guess you're going to want the ring. And then... don't know if there's any way to do that quicker. Okay, so I guess we have to do this. Resurrect, I don't think I'm going to need that. I don't think we're going to need Scrolls of Healing either. Mana Potions might come in handy if we get a belt equipped. But mostly it's going to be healing, healing, healing. So I just want to clear some inventory space there and make sure that I have enough room for the loot that I find. Is there anything interesting here that we can buy? Another Book of Firebolt, Book of Healing could be helpful. Now we won't need to worry about carrying healing potions with that. Holy Bolts could be interesting for taking down undead. I think maybe just get a Book of Firebolt here. If it'll let us. Can we buy it? Guess maybe I have to talk to her again. I mean, is it going to let me buy it? Oh, I have to do this first. Okay. There's one extra step involved, apparently. I have to do buy or sell. And then I guess a Book of Healing would probably be good here. Alright, I'm satisfied with that. Now it's gone all the way up to 15 to 24 points of damage, so that's quite good, actually. This early in the game, that's pretty good. Then we have a basic healing spell now that we can use on ourselves, so we shall go ahead and take care of that in our hotkeys. I think we'll do F3 for the healing magic. Yep, we'll do F3 with the healing magic and we'll let that be that. I might want to get rid of some of these healing potions if I'll keep the healing potions for emergency healing in my belt area. Other than that, I can just use the healing spell to heal myself now. And obviously, if you only have to worry about restoring your mana and then using your mana to cast the healing spell, then obviously that's a bit more conducive than using healing potions, I think.
What ails you, my friend?
Alright, so let's make our way out of town once again with the Tremaine, who doesn't have much to say about anything. Everyone else, since they were in the original game, they tend to have things to say with all the quest lines and things like that, and all these side quests and things. You know, it's time to get back into the action and the slightly annoying overlay of the map, and sometimes it does get in the way of vision of noticing things like enemies that are trying to sneak up on you or coming out from behind a wall or a doorway. Sometimes it's hard to see, but the enemy is trying to come through. But for the most part, we'll be okay, I think. The map here. Trying to... oh, I guess that's a chest. Right now it's time to restore my quarterstaff to its charges here. Get the charges back. What's this? Primary hotkey? Okay, so that's the attack button. Don't know if I want to have a different hotkey there. I don't know, maybe we can try this and see how this works out. I never tried that before. Never tried hotkeys for... oh, excuse me. Ugh, yawning. I guess what I meant to say there was that I haven't tried like different spell actions with left clicking and right clicking there at the same time. Usually I just have right clicking activating the spell that I have highlighted. Alright, so let's open up some of these things going on over here. Okay, so we took out the skeleton straight away as it got out of the barrel and then met its quick, untimely death. Alright, so that makes things somewhat interesting, but I think I'm going to switch that out. I don't know if I want to do that. I can always use just the right-clicking, I think will be good enough here instead of doing that. That's why I prefer the mouse wheel for switching skills out through here. Yeah, I think the mod author, instead of using the mouse wheel to zoom in and out like this, they instead should have used it to cycle through the skills that you have hotkeyed down here. Because that's how Diablo 2 handles it, and that's the way I like it. And that's the way that it works very well. Okay. Looks like we have another bookcase up there that we can maybe get another spellbook from. Quilted armor. And some of the gear was not originally in the first Diablo, like quilted armor, for example, I don't think was in the original game. I think it was mainly just like leather types of armor, I think. And then quilted armor, I think, was only introduced in the second game, I think. And then it's introduced again through here, through through the mod that I'm using, the Belzebub mod. And so it adds in lots of different gear that was not in the original game, which is pretty cool. Alright, so there's some basic type items that I don't really need, so unless it seems like something that will sell for a good deal of money, maybe not the most important thing to pick everything up here. Early on in the game, at least for the gear that you wear, you just take whatever you can get, obviously. So let's just rapid fire and see what happens. There's going to be an enemy down there somewhere that we can hit with this spell. There we go. Anyone else over here? I do not believe so. Let's pick up a ring, another ring. So apparently these little demons were carrying some jewelry on them. Apparently they're into that. Not that it has to make sense, of course. They always drop random loot, so... But they like their rings. And a book of healing. So we didn't need the healing book before, I guess, but it also increases the potency of the spell. So 5 to 28 healing amount. Going all the way up to 6 to 34. So it did definitely increase the effectiveness of that. So that will be quite nice. And then we're not going to use this because Heal Others is not a spell that we care about. It would have been interesting if this game had something like a cleric class where, you know, clerics can specialize in healing and control magic, and then the sorcerer can deal with damage dealing and summoning type magic, and it would have been interesting. There isn't even a cleric in Diablo 2, but there is like a paladin that kind of has the flavor of a cleric a little bit, except they're more based around auras than healing and spellcasting and things like that. Alright, take care of them.
I cannot get there from here.
Oops. Don't want to get hit by the trap there. Yeah, trying to avoid the traps as best I can. Obviously, some of them are going to hit me anyway, but doing what I can to stay alive here. Definitely don't want to die on the first level of the game. That would be kind of embarrassing. Bound to hit one that's going to shoot fireballs out there. Scroll of healing. Maybe I can just sell some of this stuff that I'm getting on the ground. Is that magical? I think it is. It is indeed. Again, just opening them up with charged bolt here just to keep a safe distance away and not have to worry about getting burnt to a crisp from a trap here. Nice quality of life improvement being able to recharge my staff without the maximum number of charges gradually going down until it reaches such a low amount that it's just not a usable item anymore for me and I have to switch to a different one. So it's nice I don't have to do that like I would have to have done in the original game if I wanted to play that. And maybe one day I'll play the original unmodded Diablo game. I mean, it's certainly still a great game and still definitely very playable if you just play the original game. But it's definitely, there's definitely lots of quality of life stuff that's added in through this mod that would be hard to go without once you've experienced it that way. Alright, let's take down that lumbering zombie over there. Take down these annoying little guys, the fallen ones. Gold, a cloak that we don't need. Lots of basic things like cloaks and robes. After the very early portions of the game, you don't usually want to wear them. It is interesting that like a cape, a cloak, and robes and stuff like that, they count as armor when it would usually be like in other games there are things like cloak and robe type slots for your equipment that are separate from armor. Or capes, robes, things like that. Oh, what am I doing? I don't want to swing at them. Oh, I'm out of charged bolt slots. That's why I was doing that. I need to notice that much better. Let's switch to this. Reload our staff. There we go. And let's wail on these guys now. Book of Holy Bolt could come in handy against these undead. For now, we're just going to have them meet their very charged up death here as they charge at us. There we go. And you can also hear when I cast that there's a sound effect like a staticky type sound effect.
I have no room.
So very thematic type sound effects that they have going on in this game. Time to learn Holy Bolt. We definitely could have just, obviously we can sell the magic books if we don't plan on using them, but I plan on using all of them, so... Oh, excuse me. A little bit of gas. Let's see, we have that. What item did I drop? Did I drop the cape? Maybe I did. So yeah, if it's not magical, then we're going to just try and leave it behind here. And another bookcase, it would seem, of Heal Other, a book that I don't really need. So I guess we can at least sell that for some money, I guess, since we don't need Heal Other. Mainly I just learned it before just because, again, maybe I might need it at some point if I get like summoning magic down the line. Maybe there's some summoning spells that I just don't know about that I might get access to by way of the mod that I'm playing, but But for the most part, I don't really tend to... I wouldn't tend to value a healing spell like that. Right, so as I mentioned, oh, we want to go this way, actually. Oh, it depends. I guess it depends. If we want to go to town first, that way we can sell off all of our stuff. We need to go this way, and then hopefully we can get like a Book of Town portal or a Scroll of Town portal to make traveling to town easier in the future. Once we're in town, obviously, we can move much faster and travel much faster, but in the dungeon, you usually want to use like a town portal scroll of some kind, or have the spell added to your spell book so that way you can cast it pretty easy. It looks like Pepin's surrounded here.
What ails you, my friend?
Resurrect and healing. Resurrect this, healing that. Okay.
Hello, my friend. Stay a while and listen.
Let's see what we got. Blue Club of Illness. Frog's Ring of the Jackal. I wonder what that is. Blue Ring. Okay. Blue Ring, very simple name compared to the other one. Less mana and less hit points means I'm going to kick that ring to the curb. Lightning resist, however, could be useful at some point, depending on what enemies that we face, so I will keep that along. Items in the original game...
What can I do for you?
Items in the original game did not tend to have as many downsides. Like, you wouldn't find items with only downsides, you'd only find items with positive enchantments. And then occasionally unique items would have downsides to them in exchange for being powerful in other areas, but usually base magic items in the previous game did not have downsides to them. He doesn't want it. Okay. That's not a very good item. I don't want that. And this doesn't even sell for anything. That's how useless it is. It does nothing more than to suck up 100 GP from identifying it with Cain. Waste of time and money that ring was, but oh well.
I
Can't win
sense
them
a
all.
soul in search of answers.
Let's get rid of the staff. We get a good 250 gold out of that spellbook there. Okay, we'll just sell that. We'll sell the scrolls. I don't think we're going to need them. And then I guess the healing as well. We have the healing spell in our spellbook, so we can cast that if we need to heal ourselves. Down as much as we can on the potions. Eventually we are going to be able to add more potions down here if we get a belt equipment. Looks like there aren't any staffs that have anything other than Charged Bolt for offense, so we're going to pass on those. We could get yet another Book of Firebolt here, but I'm going to opt for Town Portal here. Let's go a couple scrolls of that.
I cannot cast that here.
Of course you can't. And what the heck, we'll go ahead and do this, get enough gold to get another scroll of Firebolt, or another Book of Firebolt here.
I cannot cast that here.
We don't have much else to spend our money on, so we might as well just increase the potency of our Firebolt here. Put the scrolls of Town Portal in here. And now our firebolt's cooking with heat, no pun intended. Alright, so I think now that we're coming to a close with the first level of the dungeon, I think that this might be a good stopping point to maybe end the episode here. But I thank you all for joining me, and I'll go ahead and get over here to the, again, second level of the dungeon here, and then after that we're going to just call it an episode. I think that we've gotten a pretty decent start here on the game. Thankfully we didn't die yet. That would have been pretty catastrophic to die in the first opening level of the game. It would have been pretty bad to have died in such a fashion. So hopefully if we die, we at least die swinging on a future level here. So I thank you all for joining me, and so I hope you all will join me next time for our playthrough of Diablo, the original, the classic, the one that we all know and love, and joining me for this Let's Play of the Belzebub HD Mod. And so you can get a different experience than what would have been with the original game. And so I hope that you all enjoy it and join me next time. Hope you all have a very Merry Christmas, and I hope you all take care as always.